Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first new category episode of 2025. Happy New Year. Today, we are starting a category that we lovingly call Most Hours Played, in which we will discuss games that the three brothers have played the most hours. And first up is Smite. Why don't we start with some initial thoughts like we usually do? Pete, why don't you lead us off?
Okay, so I'll share how I got into Smite. So I guess you guys were playing Smite before I even knew what it was. And I remember, like, whenever we'd be together, maybe at our parents or something, you guys would break off into conversation about Smite this, Smite that. And, like, I don't know, it just sounded funny. It's like a one-syllable kind of word. But anyway, so, like, you were talking about, I guess, Tom and his buddies play and this and that. And then finally, you guys mentioned to me, because at the time I only had the Switch. So you mentioned to me that it was like available for Switch now. So then I remember I downloaded it and made an account on my birthday. And I got hooked pretty quickly.
Why don't you give us some initial thoughts?
Yeah, so I think I was the first out of us. Actually, I know I was the first of us three to play this game. Yeah, a friend of mine had suggested it. He's into like trying all the free games, so yeah, so we tried it, and me and a group of friends, and yeah, we had a similar initial reaction to Pete in that we were hooked pretty instantly. Really slamming those arena queues early on to like get a feel for the game, but so when we joined, it was in season 5 of Smite, and we'll talk a little bit more about the seasons of the game later on. So I mean, at that point there was already a pretty wide array of characters to choose from, and we'll get into characters and roles later on as well, but yeah, just so like right out of the box there was so much to like do and learn, and I don't know, like it spoke to me, and it really got me invested into like putting in the time outside of the game to learn it and get better at it.
I'll sort of spoiler alert on the characters. I mean, one of the big draws for me is that the characters in this game are mythological gods from various different pantheons. So that is something that I'm just sort of interested in outside of games and whatever else I do. So that was a big draw to begin with, and just a chance to be able to play online. I feel like just as life gets in the way, us brothers and friends, we can't like meet in person as much. So gaming was a good way to be able to still stay connected. On a headset and playing these games, and this one really hooked me as well. And it makes sense that it's in our most hours played category that it would have hooked us. So why don't we get into it a little bit more rather than bulking up these initial thoughts. I'm Anthony, along with my two brothers, Pete and Tom, and this is Brothers and Boss Battles, a video game showdown. We have a little bit of a new format that we're going to use in the new year, and we'll discuss it with you right now. Each of us picks a game that fits within a genre or category. The first 3 episodes, we will discuss one of those games in detail, talking about the story, gameplay, effect on the gaming community, and more. Staying with us so far? That's sort of the same as it's been. But in the 4th episode, our Brodown episode, that's where things change. In that episode, we will have a courtroom-style debate, each of us defending one of the 3 games we discussed the prior 3 weeks, ultimately deciding on a winner. And today, as mentioned in the intro, we are discussing Smite, a free third-person multiplayer online battle arena MOBA video game developed and published by Hi-Rez for a number of systems, first starting for Windows on March 25th, 2014, later for the Xbox One, PlayStation 4, Nintendo Switch, the Amazon Luna, and eventually coming out with Smite 2, which we'll talk about a little bit as well. As I mentioned, this category is games that us three brothers have played some of the most hours of gaming that we've ever played. And we'll give you those numbers, at least for Smite, at the end of this episode or towards the end of this episode. But this certainly is deserving of being in this category for us. Tom, when you started, so this came out, you primarily played on the PlayStation. Um,
Yes, correct.
Same PlayStation 4, same with me. And PU started with the Switch, and then Tom and I made Switch accounts, I guess, to play as well, right? But then
Yeah,
we
yeah.
cut, yeah,
So that
and
was
then
before the game supported crossplay.
right, or it had crossplay, maybe Xbox and PlayStation, but not Switch or something at first, or was it just no crossplay,
No,
like in general?
there was no crossplay, and then the first to get it was Switch and Xbox. Well, there was cross progression between
Mm,
Switch and Xbox, but not Switch and PlayStation. So
right,
that's
Yeah,
right,
that was kind of why I ended up getting Xbox and not PlayStation.
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And then Windows, there was no crossplay to begin with until they made it all crossplay, right?
right. Yeah, so it was only consoles playing with each other.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
because I mean, this started on PC.
yeah. So it started on PC. A few years later, they added the console support. So I think it was just PlayStation and Xbox at that point.
Well, it was Xbox in August 2015, and then PlayStation in May 2016.
Okay, yeah. So there's quite a lag there.
Yeah, and then not the Switch until 2019. So it was a
Yeah, I
number of
remember
years.
that wasn't. So when I started playing in 2018, yeah, I don't know if the Switch was even was even out then, was it?
I'd have to check.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
forget. But anyway, um, yeah. So I started. I played on the PlayStation 4 to start. Yeah, it was just consoles. Yeah, but then like you mentioned, we ended up creating Switch accounts, to play with Pete. So there's a bunch more hours logged that I don't even have on my
Yeah,
total
sure.
count there. And then also I ended up making a PC account as well to
Mm.
have a separate ranked account to play with you guys.
Yeah, he didn't want to mess up his ranked with his friends, so that was
Yeah, so so there's even more hours that I've
right.
By
Yes.
mess up, by mess up, you mean like get too high a rank by
Yeah,
playing
yeah.
with
yeah,
us?
because then I wouldn't be able to queue with them. Yeah,
Yeah.
The Switch came out March 3rd, 2017. The Switch was in existence for about 2 years before Smite reached it.
yeah, that tracks.
Yeah. So, like I mentioned, all of the characters are gods from various pantheons: Greek, Roman, Egyptian, Chinese, Japanese, Hindu. Then they started adding other ones, and it was always so exciting. I feel when they would add new gods, and add new pantheons, and it was really interesting. And they wound up with guys like Cthulhu and Baron Samedi from like a voodoo type of uh, pantheon. So, it came out really, it was just a really fun game. And there are various different modes, which I guess we should discuss now. And we'll give you our favorites as we discuss it. But um, anyone want to discuss the modes?
Yeah, so when you first started the game, they threw you in a tutorial, which is like a mock battle of the arena game mode. Now, this is the one that I think people are initially drawn to just because it's less strategic and it's more just like an open battleground where the main objective is to just kill the other team, basically.
Yeah, get to enough points.
Yeah, I mean, but the main way to do that is just killing.
Yeah, right.
There's no real objectives that
Smiting them.
smiting them. There's no real objectives, like the other modes have that we'll talk about later. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, this one, it's the easiest to just kind of jump in. It's the quickest. I think matches average about like 15 to 20 minutes.
Yeah, and so that's why they put the tutorial there. And it's just a good way to we mentioned that there's briefly that there's a bunch of different classes, and in this one, it's a little less strategic on needing to sort of fit in each class into the match on your team. It's usually the best teams, at least to start off before people started having meta builds and all of that, was to have one of each member if you had like a five, in some of the other modes like conquest and such. But
Yeah. Anyway, getting back to arena, it's a good way to like try out new characters or new builds with different items, just because it's quick, and the main aspect of the mode is team fighting, which is ends up being the most important part of the other modes.
mhm.
Like those are the real like game changing moments, those team fights, whoever comes out on top. So um, yeah, it's a good place to practice things like that.
Yeah, and then you wind up you get like game rewards for winning. You get what are called worshippers, which are essentially just points, and you could get gems that you use to buy different skins. Now we mentioned that this is a free to play game, so you could wind up having hours of enjoyment. And for Smite, I never really bought anything. I just sort of tried to earn my new gods and new skins and all of that, and I didn't have some of the cooler ones that like Tom and others had, but um, you could really have hours of fun just for sort of free.
Yeah, I mean that's what I did. I don't think I spent a dime.
If everyone was like you guys, the game would have lasted 6 months
It's true.
instead of 11 years.
They
Yeah.
didn't do enough to entice us.
You know what's interesting? I hear from people like sometimes I'll bring up Smite and they'll tell me how they like were there and the initial like on PC or whatever. So like it's pretty cool. Like I feel like I was early on, but I really wasn't compared to a lot of other people. So I mean, there's other game modes too. The main one that we wound up playing since there's three of us is this uh mode called Joust, and the rest of the modes follows somewhat of a similar path where you're kind of, there's a lane or multiple lanes. You're kind of marching down the lane to try to destroy a bunch of towers to eventually get to the opposing team's Phoenix. Oh, and then
Titan.
Titan. In
Titan
order,
is the final objective that you need
right,
to kill to win the game.
right, that you have to kill, and you have like these minions that die in a couple of shots that uh, work with you, and you have to kind of strategically use them or kill them, depending on what situation you're in, to proceed. So, that all of the other modes sort of follow that lane um, mechanism that's different from Arena. So the one we played the most was Joust, which was 3-on-3. So, that it was interesting in the sense that the game really seemed made for this other mode called Conquest, which was 5-on-5 with three lanes and sort of defined accepted roles for each lane and how you would pair up and all of that. So, Joust, you had to do a little bit of thinking in that you're not going to have one of each, category of characters, and it just played a little bit differently.
I mean, my favorite part of Joust is, it worked out that it was 3-on-3 and there's three of us, but also that it's just one lane. So like you are with your two teammates and your three opponents, at all times, essentially.
Yeah,
There's a little nuance to that, but
yeah,
I mean that's something that I really like about the Joust game mode. And I don't know, I feel like it's kind of in between. Like Arena is very more casual, very fast paced.
hmm
And the mode like Conquest that you mentioned, the 5 versus 5, it's very slow to me, especially at first.
yeah,
It's like
yeah,
all about like patience and
right. Then there's
Yeah.
a yeah. Go ahead.
Joust is cool because it has the strategy element with taking down towers and Phoenix and whatnot. But then it also, you start off basically right in the middle of a team fight. Because you
yeah.
have your three characters on your team are meeting the three characters on the opposing team, right in one lane, and you're fighting it out.
Right. Yeah. Whereas like in Conquest, if you're in the solo lane, you're kind of one-on-one unless someone decides to team up on you.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, and then
but
mid
we
lanes
should we should say that Conquest, this game is part of esports, and Conquest is the mode that's played in esports, and it's the most involved. It involves the most strategy, and it really is sort of the main mode whenever you see
Yeah,
these.
Conquest is the traditional MOBA game mode. I think pretty much all MOBAs have their main mode as this, a similar one to Conquest, where there's 5 on 5, there's 3 lanes, and a big
Mhm,
jungle.
mhm.
With various objectives. Like in Smite, there's the Fire Giant and the Gold Fury, and all these lanes meet at one point at the end where you take down a
Like,
target to, to,
yeah,
to win the game. Um,
right.
yeah, so I mean, it's no surprise that that's the most popular mode in Smite, at least from like a competitive perspective.
Yeah. And it's cool though because it has the other modes, and they do put a lot of thought into those other modes. There's a couple of other modes. Well, there's a few. One's called Assault, where it's like one lane and you can't go back to heal or buy items until you die. And it's randomly selected gods. So you could have a very unbalanced team or be playing a god that you never played before and don't have much experience with. But I always found that mode fun because I felt like a lot of people were in the same boat, and I wound up I liked trying out a lot of different gods, so I had a little experience with a lot of them. They're laughing at me now because I will correctly say that I mastered these gods, and they will say they will disagree. But
Yes,
anyway,
because after playing like 2 matches with the god, you gain like the first level mastery. So, but that's
no,
funny because I was sort of the opposite of you. I really like to just have a small collection of gods that I felt like I was getting better with. So I pretty much never played Assault.
They call it a god puddle instead of a god pool.
Huh.
because it's small. But and then there were other modes that came and went. There was Siege, which was 4-on-4, and you would get like these siege monster helpers that you could unlock that would go down the lane with you. There was
Yeah, there was another 5-on-5, but it was like 2 lanes.
Slash. Well, Slash
Cl-
came after. Oh, Clash,
Clash, and then
and
Clash
then
and Siege were combined to make
to make
Slash.
Slash,
right,
yeah,
right. That's probably the
Key.
least popular game mode, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, the queues on that were really long. I remember.
that was disappointing, Slash, because I think a lot of people had hoped that it would be, like a fun new casual mode that,
Mm,
wasn't conquest levels of, sweaty, but also was,
better than Arena.
yeah, like a more, yeah, more like conquest than arena would be. But yeah,
Yeah.
it just, I don't know, at least from the times that we played it,
Hmm.
it just never really felt properly balanced. And it was just like, it seemed like, I don't know, a lot of times in my experience, it was very hard to end the game. So like you would be playing for like 40 minutes and you would wipe their whole team, but you couldn't get to the Titan in time to kill it. So
Yeah. And then they
Yeah.
had these sort of like random other modes that they would throw out every, portion of a season. That some were really fun and others were just like really bad. But those I didn't like them because they didn't count towards your stats. But there were some modes that were so ridiculous where you'd go like 2 kills and 20 deaths, and it's like, thank goodness it doesn't do that. But
yeah, those were just kind of like meme game modes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you
But
mentioned like the
mm,
duration of Slash, but those conquest matches could be very long, and even joust matches. I mean, we've played joust matches over 40 minutes, I think.
yeah, so I think some were like close to an hour,
Yeah.
like in
Like,
the
Yeah.
in the 50-minute range.
so how do you guys feel about that? Because I feel like a lot of games are a lot quicker,
What do you mean
where
by a lot
matches
of
are like,
games? Oh, a lot
like,
of other like match games. Like,
yeah, yeah.
well, I have to say, I mean, I'm really not a big MOBA fan. I've played other online games where there've been like player versus player. Um, I know Tom has played a bunch of those and a bunch of like players versus everyone's, and then me and you, Pete, have played like sports games. Yeah, and I don't know. It's tough because you really have to set aside time to be able to play and know like you'll be able to finish a match and don't have to abandon your team. But I kind of liked how Joust could be like 10 minutes or 50 with an average, more towards like maybe 25 or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, I mean, I like that too. I mean, I didn't have a problem with it at all. And I like I like the slower pace. Like,
But not
you
too
know,
slow.
not too slow. But you could build and
Yeah.
we have to talk about that too.
Hmm.
And just see how the game evolves and develops. Like, I don't like games where the matches are like 5 minutes long.
Yeah. Yeah. Which are a lot. Yeah. Both are, I can see the merits of both.
Yeah, those like non-arena games, they feel really rewarding to win.
Hmm.
And I think a
Yeah,
part of that
That's
is
a good way to
because
put it. Yeah.
part of that is because of how long they take.
yeah.
Or then even like if you, when I played with me and my friends and I, when we played, we would sometimes,
Better use proper grammar on this podcast.
yeah, um, we would kind of like at times where we were like starting off very strongly, we would kind of challenge ourselves to win in sub 10 minutes because you have to, that's before the other team could even surrender. You have to
Yeah.
wait to 10 minutes to surrender. So like
Right.
we would try to beat them before they could even surrender.
Really embarrass them.
Yeah, we did it.
I
We
remember
did
you
it.
and your friends, and sometimes it trickled over to when we played, but would try to like do sort of these weird combos of characters. Like I know you had the triple guardian
Yeah, so we
matches
all
and
we all had
the
there was a line
tankiest.
there was a line of skins called plushie.
Right.
So where the characters would look like plush toys.
Let's talk about the five classes because I feel like we're referencing it. And if people don't know, then
Yeah, that's a good
it
idea.
becomes harder to understand. So I'll just read them out. I mean, there's the guardian, the warrior, the mage, the assassin, and the hunter. They all have different. So at least in Smite 1, and we'll get a little bit to Smite 2, but in Smite 1, the hunters were ranged physical attackers. The assassins were melee physical attackers. The warriors were melee physical attackers, but slower than the assassins, but more powerful and had a little bit more defense. And then you had the guardians, which were the tankiest characters, but did magical damage, but were mostly there to set up other moves and you know be defensive. And then the mages, which were generally ranged magical attackers, and had low defense but can do high damage. And the best teams would sort of make it where there was a
A
a
balance.
complementary balanced team. Yeah.
Yeah, so you had some frontline, you know, tankier
Yeah.
gods and
Yeah. The
some
warriors or the
burst
guardians.
damage. Yeah. I don't know if you guys want to talk about some of the characters now, if that's a good transition or not, but anyway, so I guess I will. Tom, you mentioned the like the tutorial. So the god there that they choose for you is Neith, who's a hunter. And she's recommended. She's one of the recommended gods for like newcomers. I think it's for a couple of reasons, but she has like a nice escape, a backflip. So I remember how I was basically just Neith for
Yeah.
like it felt like months. Like that was the
You got
only.
like almost like 10 masteries with her before you like used another
Yeah.
character, I feel.
Yeah. Well, I was just trying to learn the game. I felt
Yeah.
like learning a new god just
Yeah.
complicated that.
Yeah, we said that the game came out on Switch in 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah, which sounds right to me.
Yeah, so I mean, at that point,
There was a
there
lot
was
of gods.
there was a
Oh
lot
yeah,
in the game. I
it
think
was
there was
overwhelming for me.
I
It
think
was
it
like
was
80
about
years.
I think it was 100.
Oh, at that point it was already 100. Wow.
I think that
Yeah,
sounds right. Yeah, so it was very overwhelming. Now the thing is,
Even if it was 80, that's overwhelming.
yeah,
But yeah, if it's
it's
over.
it's it's useful. It's very useful to know the gods that you're going against too, even though you're not using them,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
So, that put me at a little bit of a disadvantage being so adverse to trying out new gods at first. But
Yeah, as Pete mentioned before, that was the complete opposite of what I did. I had my favorites, but and we'll discuss those because I always feel that's fun. But I tried to use a lot, and it is useful to know at least their move sets, so you know what it looks like they're attempting to do and how to maybe avoid it, what kind of items they buy. So that's was important, I think, when playing. And Tom already had a ton of experience by the time the three of us brothers played.
yeah, that was another kind of challenge. We all kind of were staggered in when we started, so we were kind of at different levels until I eventually surpassed both of you.
So I had to carry the whole time.
Oh, your back hurt, right? Because so why don't we talk about what were your guys' favorite roles to play?
Well, so
Depending on mode, depending on who you were playing with, I guess would change that answer.
When he was
yeah,
playing with us, he felt like he had to be an
I
offense so we
yeah,
could get
Yeah,
kills.
yeah,
exactly. Because
that's true.
if I was playing the Guardian with you guys, then we just basically would never get any kills. So yeah, probably.
Kills are really a function of how good the Guardian is anyway. No, go ahead,
Uh,
Tom.
but yeah, so like in Joust, you don't have the traditional roles.
Yeah,
Each character has their own class, but roles are more a conquest term. And we barely played any conquests, so
yeah, a little bit, but not much.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
but
my
you,
favorite class of
yeah,
characters to play was warriors,
yeah,
because
which was
yeah,
which
I
was
mean
big. I mean, that was big for us in Joust because they could, there were times where you were the tankiest character on our team, but were still able to do a lot of damage.
yeah, that's what I really liked about the warrior class. That they were the best. No, no, no.
I always
I
felt
just I like that play style where like
you
Yeah,
could bully people.
up in
yeah, like
people's
that
grill.
bully and then like kind of get annoy them and get in their way and then hopefully one of your teammates is around and can like do a little
Like,
burst damage to confirm a
yeah.
kill or whatever.
Yeah, I think my two favorites were Guardians and Mages, the two magical damagers. I like Guardians because they could take a lot of damage, so you could really get up in people's faces and not have to back down right away. And the Mages were just fun because they had a pretty cool. A lot of them had really cool move sets, and it's a lot of it was focused on their abilities as opposed to their like basic attacks. And you could really learn and buy different, learn about and buy different items that would really give you a lot of power. And towards the end of the game, you can really do some damage, particularly, but all throughout. So, um, I think there was a little less pressure as the tankier characters, to be honest, from my perspective. So, but when I had to play a more damager, I would like the mages, and I think assassins were my least favorite because I just wasn't very good with them.
Yeah, it's funny you say less pressure because I feel like when we're playing three of us joust, I agree with you that if you're like you said, a mage, someone who's supposed to do a lot of damage, you almost feel like I got to get in there, and then you kind of
Yeah.
set yourself up for a death.
Hmm.
But I feel like if I'm playing with like randos and you're the guardian, like somebody dies once and you get blamed no matter
Yeah,
what.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. It's always the Guardian's fault.
yeah. But guardians were probably my favorite as well to play. Just like that you could impact the game, the match in a lot of different ways without doing a ton of damage or getting the kill.
Yeah, and what was cool is that the gods were so different that there were some guardians you could really do good damage with, and then there were other guardians that were going to be sort of pure, just blocks in the way of the other team and just trying to set up your teammates. And so that was cool too, because you could find really even within your category who was like the subset character that would play well with how you want to play.
Definitely. Yeah, there's a lot of nuance within the five classes. You're right.
Yeah, I thought that was cool.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, that's fantastic.
Yeah, because if, for example, there were mages that had like escapes and others that didn't, so that would impact your gameplay and
Yeah, definitely.
style. So that was it was a lot to learn. And to me, rather than just having like sort of random characters, having them be gods and, you know, giving the story behind their lore and their particular, you know, cultural background and, why they were a god and what they meant to the people of those times. It just made it so much more interesting. And I just love that.
Yeah, I like
Like,
that too. Like, 'cause even like when we first started in the game, it's like, when I started, like Achilles was just added to the game, like a few months before I started, I think.
mm,
Um, and so like everyone was playing him. I think he was like pretty broken on
yeah,
on his release. But it's like, yeah, I knew this character. Like I read the Iliad
right.
before playing this game, and um, yeah, so it's just cool. You have that kind of connection before you even to the characters before you even play.
I remember Achilles was the answer on Wheel of Fortune, and the guy said Achilles. And so he didn't win the prize because he said it like that.
Yeah, I remember that, and I feel like he doesn't deserve to win the prize if he pronounces it
Yeah.
like that.
Achilles heel.
Yeah, so you mentioned uh, there's a lot to learn. The learning curve is very, very steep.
Yeah,
Yeah. There's a lot of instances in life or games or whatever where people say you know, I guess what's the saying? It's like it's easy to learn, hard to master. This is
Hard to learn, hard to master.
hard to learn, really hard to master.
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
and that's just an inherent issue with this kind of game.
yeah. You really got to put hours into it. And that's like League of
Yeah,
Legends and all of that. You hear about people putting so much, like World of
yeah.
Warcraft, right? Like that's kind of what we're talking about here, those type of games.
League of Legends, yeah.
League of Legends primarily, but it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, but even like those MMOs also like if you were to start World of well, I never played World of Warcraft, but
yeah,
Final
yeah,
Fantasy 14 is a
yeah.
similar one, and it's just like the character like the max level now is 90, and like you have all these abilities for your character, and it's just like you know
Yeah.
you have to learn so much before you could like really even
Is that
start
the one
to,
I played briefly with you and your friends?
I
There was an
guess.
MMO Final
Yeah,
Fantasy that I played a
the
little
free
bit.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, the free one.
Yeah, so here you have to learn. Anyway, going back to Smite, like, there's one major thing that we haven't talked about yet, but I was just going to kind of summarize, like, not just all the gods and their abilities and stuff, kind of what class, what roles they play, but, the strategy of sort of, they call it rotating and, knowing where you should be at the right times, kind of.
Yeah, and like even in the more scaled back modes like Joust, they did have like buffs you can get in certain spots. So you wanted to make sure you weren't ambushed there or that, you didn't let the other team get it before you got it. And so
Yeah,
that was part of it.
and like what you guys would do is like stare at the other team under their tower instead of going for said buffs and actually doing things that would help you win the game.
That was mainly an ant thing, I think.
Ah, I liked poking them for a couple of hits.
Boost your player damage.
It goes back to because you said there's so much pressure on you when you played a damage dealer to do the most damage.
Yeah, I was trying to get even that little last bit.
So
Yeah,
anyway, so the thing that we haven't really touched on yet, that is a big thing to learn, is sort of the aspect of building, item building. So you could
yeah.
build more.
I would say it's the biggest thing to learn because it's not as fun as learning the gods and their moves.
Yeah, you're right.
So it's like the toughest, biggest thing is kind of not, it doesn't make any actual sense, but
Yeah.
um, it's the least fun in my mind. But I mean, it's sort of essential. They do have an auto pick mode. Did they in Smite 1? We never really used it. I know they now have it in Smite 2, but
They did, yeah.
yeah,
The auto build.
yeah, auto pick.
Yeah, but it's not recommended to do that beyond like your first, few times playing the game.
Yeah,
I mean, unless you're playing truly as just like a casual player, playing arena or whatever,
Yeah.
then I don't think anyone can really tell you, no, no, you can't play the game. You have to learn every item.
Well,
It's not
you don't
fair.
have to ever learn it, but you're going to get destroyed in some of the other matches.
Yeah.
Are you
It,
speaking from experience?
I remember one time, like, I think I was a hunter and I just, like, it was nearing the end of the match. We were losing and I just was, like, not doing any damage to their guardian. And, they're the tankiest, but still, I was, like, just hitting them repeatedly. And then, like, this was pretty early on. And then Tom mentioned, like, oh, you have to build penetration, which combats, like, the protections that they build.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I remember, like, I built, like, one penetration item, and then I was, like,
Destroying them.
doing a ton more damage, but, like,
Yeah.
we lost, like, 2 minutes later anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
That
Well,
was a
but
good learning lesson.
yeah, I was gonna say you learned an important lesson that day.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
I think my biggest item fail was that I loved cooldown, and I think you were capped at a certain percentage, but I would like
Yeah,
always buy items that would go over that cap, and
yeah, that's
obviously
great.
wouldn't benefit me at all. So that was
And
the
I
end of
would
the
point
match.
it out every
Yeah,
time.
You never learned that lesson.
yeah. No. I still don't know what the cap. I think it was 40%, but
40%.
yeah, okay. So I did learn, I guess, but
You never applied it, what you
no,
learned.
I didn't apply
No, the
it.
thing is, you never learned what items gave you how much percentage.
Yeah,
So,
yes. So I just saw cooldown and took it.
yeah,
So cooldown is just, after you use it an ability,
Yeah.
there's some cooldown period before you could use it again. So that would
Right.
reduce that
Right. And that's your
period.
move set. Like, and depending on what type of god you are, like you want to have your abilities. Like hunters, for example, their basic attacks, you would try to build attack speed and critical damage and all of that and try to do it that way. But with mages, which I feel I played a lot, you really needed your abilities. I think that's why I became obsessed with cooldown, but obviously to a fault.
yeah, I think Guardians too, because you want to have your
Yeah.
crowd control abilities off
Right.
cooldown as much as possible.
Yeah. So we talked about some of our favorite game modes, our favorite classes. And I think it just stands to reason we should maybe talk about our favorite gods, since though they are really the stars of this game.
I could start. So I mentioned earlier that that warriors are my favorite class to play, and I'm gonna name 3 warriors that were probably my favorite characters in the game. So first was Chalk from the Maya pantheon. Um, he was never considered like a like the entire time that I played the game from 2018 to 2024. He was never considered a good pick, like ever in that entire time.
That must
Maybe,
be a conquest sort
yeah.
of
Well,
determination, because he was
no,
always
because if you
unfair, so
no,
unfair.
no, because if you look at the tier list from the Grandmaster Joust players, he was never on a top tier character
Yeah,
there either.
I
maybe
will
in
say that
casual though. I felt like
Yeah,
he
yeah,
was a top
he's
20.
in Joust with his one lane, I feel he was much more effective. Maybe in Conquest, which all of those lists were really based off of.
but I just
No,
said,
Tom just said.
Oh, they were Joust lists?
well, Conquest for sure, he was always considered bottom
Yeah.
tier.
Yeah, well, I could see that because he's not around as many people to do like
He-
all the damage that.
Sure, yeah, but yeah, like as I said,
Yeah, I guess I missed it. What did you say? Repeat.
the tier lists, the top like Grandmaster Joust players would always put up
Oh,
their
Joust.
tier
You
list
said
tier list videos, for Joust. And
you
Chalk
said it
was
so smoothly. I missed the Joust. Grandmaster Joust.
Okay, so Chalk was one, and he wanted to make sure we all understood that he wasn't an OP character.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, he wasn't OP. Yeah, so he was my top played character. I had the most worshippers on him. Next one that I want to mention was Actualus.
Check out the first half of the episode to get that joke.
For people who skipped ahead to the halfway mark for some reason, it's actually
They wanted, yeah.
it's actually Achilles. And he was just like a really fun in your face
OP.
Not OP, like a warrior type who you could like. He required more mechanical ability, like skill and ability than some of the other ones, so it was like
Yeah.
fun to master him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then third one I wanted to mention was Gilgamesh, who was fairly recent.
That's the Babylonian pantheon.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was like a highly requested pantheon from
Makes
the
sense.
community,
Right.
and yeah, they finally added them in
Are there
2021.
are there any other Babylonians now?
Just Tiamat.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah,
I feel like Tiamat was a little bit of a dud of a inclusion.
I felt that there were people that used her though that were really good, but then
the
I
character is cool. It's just the kit was too complicated.
Yeah.
Like
yeah. Well, that was the thing. It was like
they
the
tried to do so
tryhards
much.
would love her. I don't know.
Do you want to talk about your favorite gods in any other class? Or
yeah,
not really?
or other honorable mentions.
Yeah, other
Like when
honorable
you
mentions.
played with us and had to do damage.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, so yeah, honorable mentions. I'll stick to other classes, even though there's some other warriors that I wanted to mention too.
Well, I'm surprised you didn't mention Bologna, actually.
I,
You didn't use her? I thought, oh, okay.
I did, but not that much.
Scratched all of
The
that.
three gods that he mentioned, like I feel like were always so annoying when we were going against them.
Yeah.
Bologna wasn't.
And Tom was annoying with them against our
definitely, yeah.
opponents, so that was good for
Definitely.
us at least. Maybe they're just annoying gods
Exactly.
in the game. In the game,
Yeah.
I'm not crapping on anyone's pantheons.
So yeah, let's go with some other classes. So I want to mention Artemis, who's a hunter in this game. I think she was the first one that I really played a lot in arena and kind of gravitated towards. Also, like considered very weak and
Yeah.
on the bottom of most tier lists.
That I can see though.
Yeah,
I'd
because
agree.
she has no escape.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's definitely carry potential with her though.
Mhm.
You know, if you're up against non-grandmasters. Yeah, but so she was always fun, and I think she was the first one that I got to rank 10.
Mm.
So that was cool. Mages, I mean, honestly, mages were probably my least favorite class to play. They all just, they didn't feel the same. That's not the right term, but I don't know. I personally felt least impactful with them.
Yeah, a lot of with the mages, you're kind of standing back trying to
Yeah, it's
do
just
your
not really
burst
my.
damage.
Trying to do damage, hoping you're not far enough where you don't hit them, and hoping not to get
Too
killed by
close.
an assassin.
Yeah, it's just not really my preferred play style.
You
It's
mentioned
gonna-
Artemis. I feel like we were all good with Artemis. Were there any other gods
Yeah.
that like all three of us
I,
played?
all three of us played. I
yeah,
guess Neath. Did you play
Neath,
Neath?
yeah.
Neath,
That's
but
a good
just
one.
I just feel everyone plays her a lot though, because
Yeah.
again, she's the tutorial one and all of that.
Yeah.
I think
Someone
she's
else
the
that I wanted to mention that we all played Bacchus.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
if I had to pick a favorite, he probably was my favorite.
Yeah, he's a ton of fun.
Yeah, he's a guardian for those.
I
that
think
don't
he's
know.
really good.
I think he's excellent. I always did. I did well with him.
And he was always like not a top tier conquest god, but
Yeah.
on the top of the joust lists.
Hmm. Yeah, no, he was good. And fun too, like so different. Like most of these gods are so like menacing and warrior like and powerful, and he's like, the god of wine, and they give him a big jug and his toga, and he's like, one of his moves is to belch, and another one is to smash his wine jug and make the other players quote unquote drunk where they can't walk straight. So it was just such a cool move set, cool design on him, just and fun to play.
Yeah. I'm looking at this third party app that we use to like collect our stats and stuff.
Give it a shout out. Give it a shout.
Okay, this was
Forgot the name.
let me get the name. Tome for Smite.
Yes.
That's for Smite 1, anyway. So for Bacchus, I had a winning percentage of under 50%, but it was better than I thought. That was 47.5%. Because I remember I played him a lot, but I didn't really like him. And the only thing I the only thing I hated more than playing him was when one of you guys played him. I just felt like he wasn't a good support guardian.
Were you filtering on a specific game mode or just all of them?
Yeah, on Joust.
Oh,
Yeah.
just on Joust. Yeah.
All right, so well, you guys are looking up your stats.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about this.
Well,
Let's see.
hold on. I got.
Bacchus.
Well, let me just say my Bacchus one
Go
since I
ahead,
have
go.
it.
Well, I
This
have
is
mine too, but
this
go
is
ahead.
just for Joust, not considering ranked
Yeah.
Joust. But
Same here when I get
so
mine.
so I have a 60.79 winning percentage. That's 138 wins, 89 losses, with a 3.03 KDA.
That's pretty good, but I have
Well,
a 57.14 winning percentage with him with a 3.28 KDA. He
the
was,
winning
like I said,
percentage is what matters. It's a team game, so
well, winning percentage, yes.
Yeah.
All right. So, any other gods you want to shout out, Tom?
Yeah, let me call out there's a couple of assassins because I was the only one out of the three of us that could actually play them.
I play Hoonbot sometimes.
Oh boy, yeah, those are fun. Just they would they would just hang out in the
Watch.
tower the whole time.
That's not true.
Yeah, so anyway, one that I played a lot with and I did well with was Ratatoskr from the
Oh
Norse
yeah.
Pantheon.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a really fun kid. And then they at some point through Smite's history, they reworked his passive, which gave him different options, like different build paths basically. So you can make him like a little more tanky if you wanted to go into that play style. So yeah, he kind of got, you know, more interesting at that point. And then also one that I played a lot when we started on Switch was Dodgy, who I was able to carry a lot of games with
Yeah,
her.
I kind of
On
remember
your
those
Smurf
days.
account.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
All right, cool.
Hoonbots, I was 4-6 with a .7 KD ratio.
Yeah, it's too small of a sample size, but
Yeah.
I think it would have kept trending that way.
Yeah, I just never got into playing the assassins. You want to go in?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so Bacchus was, if I had to pick one out of every god in the game, he was probably my favorite. But I did mention that I played Guardian and Mage primarily. Um, so I would say my second favorite Guardian was probably Ares. I felt I did pretty good with him as well. I'm getting laughed at. I actually don't know why. My Joust winning percentage with him was 58.62%.
That was the Beads team.
The Beads team,
Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
we would name some of our teams, and just as a really quick aside, there's an item called purification beads that the opposing team would almost always buy as their relic when Ares was opposing them, because he had this move where he would shoot out a bunch of chains and pull everyone into a set area where they can then be attacked by the other members of Ares' team. So by using the purification beads, you could escape that. But if you had a bunch of characters that had moves along those lines, you would be able to hit some of them because the purification beads wouldn't um,
They wouldn't be off cooldown yet.
they wouldn't be, yeah, they wouldn't be off cooldown yet. So we would call it the beads team, and I was usually Ares as part of that. And I think Dodgy was part of that as well.
Yeah, I would switch off between Dodgy and Artemis as
Oh yeah.
the
And I
damage
was
team.
usually Hades.
Right.
My Hades winning percentage is 71.6 in 81 matches
Wow, that's pretty good in Joust.
in Joust.
Wow,
Yes.
Tom, we must have had good guarding and abilities to help him out those games.
Yeah, I remember I carried a lot of those games.
No.
But anyway, so Ares was sort of a favorite, like kind of like a second ace for me with the Guardians. And then I played a lot of mages, as I mentioned, and Baron Samedi of the Voodoo Pantheon was sort of a newer-ish one added that I really liked. Just a cool look.
And then sometimes you try the support
The
Baron
tanky
Samedi.
Baron Samedi,
Yeah.
yeah, that didn't work out as well, but still had a positive winning percentage with him. Merlin, I used a lot, and I felt I did pretty well with him. Had a almost a 70% winning percentage with him, 69.81%,
Wow. How many matches?
53.
Wow, that's good. I did not realize it was that high.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I felt like he was pretty good. I was using Hera for a while. I liked her too. Tom is giving me the I guess I wasn't good
uh,
look.
I feel like those never really those
yeah.
those were never fun for us.
Yeah, I don't remember us winning too many matches when you were Hera, but I'm
I
curious.
have a positive winning percentage, but whatever.
Some of these stats might be skewed based on what gods you played when I first started playing.
Like,
I feel like we were winning a disproportionate amount
oh,
at that
yeah,
point.
yeah.
I'm not sure, but
And then another one that I wasn't good with him for some reason, but I did play him a fair amount was Poseidon. I remember like I had to send him down to the
send them
minor
to the
leagues.
minors.
Yeah, that was bad.
Because we tried to have like two or three gods in each category that we would use, and like we made the beads team and a few others just
Well,
so that
that was when we
I was,
started playing ranked a
right.
little bit.
Yeah.
We really wanted to have a small number of gods that we felt like worked well together and that
Yeah.
we were the best with. And for
Right.
some reason, you proposed Poseidon.
Well, he's good. I mean, I feel people are good with him, but I just wasn't. I'm trying to look at our ranked joust stuff. I mean, we didn't do like horrible considering it was ranked
I know.
and none
Tom
of
always
us.
makes it seem like we
I,
won 20% of the matches
No.
when we
No.
probably won like 50.
Yeah, around half, but I mean that's not good.
it's not bad
average,
for
I
people
guess.
that don't. Yeah, it's average, and it's not bad for people that don't
Yeah,
play
but the thing that
Smite.
annoyed
Yeah.
me, the thing that annoyed me is that there are so many winnable matches that we didn't
Well,
win.
yeah.
You're right.
We
yeah.
we there was that was the problem. One of us, usually me or Pete, would make a stupid mistake late, and then we would lose because of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then Kukulkan was my most used god. Another mage. You
He's
know.
he's a good beginner character too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Really
had the most.
simple kit.
Yeah, and I have like a low winning percentage with him because he was one of the first gods I used. So like there
Yeah.
was a lot of early matches where I wasn't winning at all. So
Yeah, that's why.
that's why. All right, Pete, why don't you go? There's more, but I mean, there's so
Yeah.
many and there's so many cool gods. But
Yeah,
like,
that's what's so great about this.
yeah. All right, Pete,
Well,
go.
I mentioned Hades. Another
Mhm.
one I loved, probably my favorite to play was Cthulhu.
Mm-hmm. He
And
was cool. I liked
he was
him
like the
too.
guardian that was more like could do a bunch of damage.
Yeah, I played him a lot too. That was one that we kind of split. I feel.
Yeah, all three of us. Yeah, yeah. My winning percentage with him and Jas was 66%. And then more guardians. Like I mentioned, this was my favorite class, Kazembo.
He was fun, yeah.
I really like playing with him. He's fun. He's kind of like what you were talking about with a lot of warriors. You kind of bully and get in their face.
He really played more like a warrior than a guardian.
Yeah. I love his push move, and you could push him into the tower.
Yeah, that was cool.
And then early on, I was playing a lot of Ganesha.
Yeah.
He's interesting. He's fun. Some of the other classes. So warrior, I like the Guan Yi. Is that his name?
Guan
On
Yu.
you.
Guan Yu.
Close.
Off by one letter. And then some of the mages, I was really good with Scylla.
Really?
No. Scylla was fun to me, but
Still was fun, yeah.
we never really won when I was her
Yeah.
for whatever reason.
Yeah, I remember.
No damage. It's funny. Scylla's one of the few gods that I barely ever played, despite all
Yeah.
my masteries.
I feel like she's she's not the best for beginners. Like,
Mm.
not that you're a beginner, um, but I liked Morgan Le Fay as the
Hmm.
mage a lot. And
She
I
was
meant,
newer-ish as
yeah,
well
yeah,
when they added the Arthurian pantheon.
yeah. And then besides Guardian, the Hunter is probably my second favorite class. I mentioned I played Neath a lot
Yeah,
at first, especially, but um, I liked Scotty,
I think you're.
Dog.
I'm surprised he hasn't been mentioned yet because I used him a lot, but was actually gonna let you mention him because I think you really liked him. But good old AMC,
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna get to him.
Amuzan Cobb.
Yeah, he was fun too.
Yeah, he was cool. I used him a ton early on, but then I kind of like ceded him to you when we played together, I feel.
Then he became rightfully mine.
Exactly.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean,
Oh man, this is getting me wanting to play.
I know, I know. I was playing some Smite 2 before we came on here just to get
Ooh,
amped up.
Smite 2, eh?
That's
I don't know. You
right.
guys want to talk about it a little bit? We should talk about it. I mean, do you want to talk about it now or should we wait?
Well, let's talk about it now. We brought it up. I don't
Yeah.
want to.
So Smite 2. It's currently in beta, open beta.
Open beta was released Monday,
Mhm.
Tuesday,
Tuesday.
a day ago.
Yesterday. So I mean,
And
so we've
so,
been playing.
So we've been
Go ahead, Tom. Go
playing,
ahead.
yeah,
yes,
Tommy.
so open beta, for those who are unfamiliar, means that the game is available for anyone to play, to download and play for free. So if you have, a PC, if you play on Steam, I think it's also on the Epic Game Store. Then it's on PlayStation 5 and the latest Xbox. So it's not on the previous generation.
Mhm.
But so if you have any of those consoles or PC, you are able to download the game and play for free. The game is going to have a bunch of modes already supported. So there's going to be Conquest that we talked about, Joust, Arena, and Assault. And they're calling it Assault. I think they're calling it Alpha Assault or something like that. Basically, it's currently just in the Conquest map, but it just everyone's in the middle lane and you can't go to the other lanes.
Huh.
So they're eventually going to build out a new map,
Mhm.
specifically for the game mode and put some new mechanics in for it. But yeah, I think they wanted to get it out just so that people can play it.
So what's the name of the what we've been playing leading up to the open beta? Is
So we were playing the closed alpha.
the closed out.
Yeah.
And then when do they expect to go final with Smite 2?
I don't think that's been revealed yet,
Mm.
but I mean, the open beta is very kind of
Almost there.
it's basically the game is ready
Yeah.
now. It's available for everyone. Anybody,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they're gonna have where you can buy gems and skins,
Mm.
so they can start making money off of it. So it's basically like the game is out.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and the graphics are greatly improved. Um, the three of us, when I guess the initial closed alpha
Closed
What
alpha. Yeah, the
was
first
like,
weekend.
yeah, it was just like the item buying screen and store was just like
Yeah,
absolutely atrocious, and they've
it,
really
it
upgraded it.
it was bad. Yeah, I mean, not just that. Like even like the feel of the game was off,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
a lot of people who like supported the game for years were complaining about it, and you know, just giving their honest opinion and just saying that the game was not where where it needs to be for people to start playing it yet.
Thankfully, they listened.
Yeah, yeah, they've been cooking.
Yeah,
Um,
because it really seemed like it would be
We
the death knell for Smite. Like we were just opining that they should have just kept adding more gods to Smite 1.
Yeah, we were really souring on
Yeah.
Smite, but having recently played the past week, it
Mhm.
really they did a 180, so I'm very excited.
Yeah.
yeah,
And
they
they've
really improved things.
right. And they're starting out with what, about 30 gods?
45.
45. So, they still have a long way to go to kind of program a lot of the gods they had in the past and add new gods. Some of those 45 are actually ones that were not in Smite 1, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
There's Mordred from the Arthurian pantheon and a couple of other new ones.
Yeah. Hecate from the Greek pantheon
Right.
and Aladdin from an all new pantheon.
Yes.
Tale
The
of
Disney
Arabia.
Nah.
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah,
no,
they,
can
they
we
have,
say
and
Disney?
then they could
oh,
add Maui and make it like the one from Moana.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Maui's already in, or at
Well, I
least in
know.
Smite 1.
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
But so anyway, with Smite 2, they are like, adding new stuff to it. It's not just the same Smite 1 with
Better
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 graphics.
graphics
graphics. Yeah.
and sound. I was playing some arena
Yeah,
earlier, and like,
could hear the cheering.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
but I'm almost certain of this. Like, I was playing with my headphones, and as I was turning my head, it was coming like the sound was moving. It
Oh, that's cool.
was very cool.
Yeah, no, the sounds
But
is,
anyway, so
yeah,
it's
yeah.
Tommy, you were saying it's not
Yeah.
just
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think we
prettier
need
Smite.
to get into like every nitty gritty change, but one thing that I did want to call out was they're adding these things called aspects for each god. They haven't implemented it for everyone yet, but I think there's 20 at this point. And so basically, this is something that you can select. After you select the god, like in the part where you can choose a skin, there's also where you can basically flip on this aspect or like flip it on or off. And what it does is it changes pretty drastically changes one of your god's abilities. Making them kind of flex into a different role. So, like for example, there was one on Capri. I don't remember exactly what it was, but basically it made him more of like a damage dealer.
Yeah,
Mm.
instead of pulling them, it like rooted them and did damage or something, right? Or
Yeah, yeah,
something along
something
those
like
lines,
that.
whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But so like they're adding these. It just adds another
Nuances.
extra depth to the
Yeah.
characters. And
Yeah,
No,
that
it's so
could be
cool.
cool, but
It's just
yeah. Go
too
ahead.
it
Go ahead.
becomes too sorry, it just becomes too much. Like all this
Yeah,
added flexibility and you could kind
yeah.
of play,
Different ways
yeah, like
and
it's awesome, but it just adds so much complexity
Yeah,
to learning the game.
yeah.
that's
Like
why
I
it's
don't
that's
I
why
don't
it's
know how
good.
a newcomer is gonna come in and just
Well, that's why it's good to get in now, folks.
yeah.
Yeah. The I one of the changes is I feel the roles are less defined as far as, guardian and assassin and mage and like
Classes, yeah.
the classes. Yeah. So I kind of I love that about Smite 1 that it was very sort of defined and like there were a few gods that played differently and you might be able to work them into a slightly different role. Now it seems like that's not going to be the case as much. So again, that's more flexibility, but I hope it doesn't just make every god seem somewhat the same or make the differences in the gods less important or
Yeah.
less interesting.
Yeah, that's a
Um,
good way to say it.
where you're kind of just, oh, I like the way this one looks better, and I'll just apply the moves and items that I would to any other god to this one and just use them. I don't know. I mean, it's
I don't think that's really a
a problem.
concern or a problem. Just because, I mean, the God's Kid is really going to dictate what role they're played in. And
Yeah.
like what if you're playing a character like Agni,
Hmm.
who's like has a bunch of long range attacks and his abilities scale with intelligence, you're going to build him like the common mage build path that would
Yeah.
have been in Smite 1. Like you can't like just because there's no defined roles or classes, you're not gonna build him like a tank or
Yeah.
a
I guess they'll all
or
fall
a
into.
hunter. Like
Yeah. It was just interesting. I saw like Bacchus in a solo lane, which is generally what warriors used, and I think Athena in like a jungler lane, which is generally what the assassins would be in. So it was
yeah,
just
but like
that's a major difference.
people were playing Athena
Yeah.
jungle in Smite 1.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, and just so the listeners get context, intelligence, quote unquote, is sort of the new magic, and strength is the new physical. And some gods now will scale with both as opposed to just one or the other, like they did in Smite 1. So again, cool, but also an added layer of learning and thinking.
Yeah, and it's not just all this complexity is not just potentially detrimental, or it's going to make it a lot more difficult to learn, but it's also, I fear, going to be more difficult to keep it balanced for the developers.
Yeah, I agree with
And
that.
Yeah.
I feel like they were already having a hard time in Smite 1 with that, and there were just constant changes to everything, which is another thing that makes it difficult to learn
Yeah,
because
I
it's all
think
constantly changing. And then if the imbalance is just more apparent and greater, it just we'll see how it goes.
there'll be more changes.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's kind of one of my fears with, and then like allowing any god to build any item. Like, there's bound to be, you know, one god who's able to abuse
Hmm.
an item that they didn't previously have access to in Smite 1, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
so like yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they handle those kind of cases. Because, they used to have stuff that was class locked in Smite 1,
Hmm.
you know, to prevent some of
Yep.
that broken stuff, but now they're not going to be able to do that. So
Right.
yeah, it'll be, an extra challenge for the developers to balance that properly.
Yeah,
All
and
right.
we're hoping to uh you know stream some games that the three of us play on our Twitch account, Bros Boss Battles.
Thank you for that. And yeah, come and check us out on that. You'll get your updates if you subscribe or whatever
Yeah,
to us.
follow. Yep.
All right, we're gonna take a quick break and then we're gonna talk about some of the esports and then we'll wrap it up. All right, welcome to this week's mid-episode filler Would You Rather question. And today we are discussing Smite in our most hours played category. We have a question based on three of the Smite gods and how you'd like to spend time with them. Give us your answers on X and Instagram at Bros Boss Battles. That's BROS Boss Battles. On our YouTube page, wherever you get this podcast, or wherever else you want to talk to us. All right, here we go. Would you rather party with the god of wine, Bacchus, spend the day playing with cats with the goddess of cats, Bastet, or go fishing with Poseidon, god of oceans and water? Let us know your thoughts on the aforementioned social media sites, and we look forward to reading them out and see which one comes out on top. All right, back to the episode. All right, we just had our mid-episode filler portion of the show, and we're now back to our regular portion. Tom, there was a couple of things I think you wanted to add, so go right ahead.
Yeah, so I just want to touch briefly on one aspect of this game that you don't really get in other games is the in-depth like patch notes that they would provide for each patch, but the way that they presented them was always very exciting to me personally. So they would, have live in their studio a host who worked at Hi-Rez, and usually like two of the developers would be present, to discuss all the upcoming changes. You know, item balance, god balance. As somebody who was like really invested in the game, this those patch note shows were super exciting to me. Like I would always, they would usually be on, I think, like 2 or 3 in the afternoon on like a Wednesday or something. And so like I would, ditch work and and watch it. Well, I mean, I have the luxury of working on a computer all day, so I was just able to open a new tab and watch it. But yeah, and it just kind of goes to, speaks to like how just engaging the game could be, and but also some of the other things we talked about, like having to stay current with all the new changes to really maximize your potential in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, no, those were cool, and I would always ask for like the Reader's Digest version from you guys. Um,
Yeah, and then just whenever there was a new god, they would always
mhm.
highlight, show off the whole kit, and
Yeah,
so like you got to be there as it was revealed to the world.
yeah, that was cool. Actually, one other thing that I wanted to mention that we sort of neglected, we did mention the skins and that you could pay for them and all of that, but some of the partnerships that Smite had were really cool and led to some really interesting skins that you could use for different characters. For example, they had a whole thing with Nickelodeon, which was cool because it included the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which are owned under Nickelodeon now. They had Avatar: The Last Airbender, Transformers, Stranger Things, which I'm a big fan of. And
Yeah,
others like Slipknot. They had the band, and so it was just really cool. And they managed to get some really high profile, IP partnerships.
yeah, Avatar is huge, and Ninja Turtles, and then they had the whole other set of Nickelodeon skins,
Yeah,
like with Rocco and Powdered Toast Man,
yeah, 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 yeah. It was
yeah,
really cool.
and others.
Right. All right. And then I think the last thing before we conclude and give our recommendations would be to talk about the esports. We mentioned that this is the Conquest, particularly as part of the esports catalog. And Tom, I guess you've probably can speak most intelligently out of the three of us on this.
Yeah, you got to give credit to Smite because I was never really into esports or watching people play video games on the internet. Like even Twitch, like
Except when you were little kids and you like to watch me play, but that was before the internet.
that, yeah, that was live. But yeah, so like yeah, like even with Twitch, like I was never someone who watched Twitch streams or anything like that. But this game inspired me to do that, to see what the best players were doing and how they were building and playing, but yes, like esports specifically, I mean, they changed a lot over the years. When I first started watching it, they had a separate console league.
Mm.
That one was always kind of like the like
Baby
the
brother.
The
secondary
minor
one.
league.
Yeah, yeah. Like yeah, the main like pro league. Yeah, because they even called it like Smite Pro League was
Right.
PC, and then the other one was called Smite Console League.
Ah,
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was cool to watch. Like even as somebody who didn't play Conquest,
yeah.
um, it was exciting to watch those games. And even like they always made it such a huge deal when they got to the like the championships, like the finals and stuff.
Yeah.
And like it was cool. You would see like even on Twitch the viewer count would like they would have pretty decent numbers. Like I think over 20,000 at some points, which is big for a game like Smite.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Yeah, it's
never
good.
good.
Yeah,
It's never going to compete with
the Super Bowl.
League of Legends or the Super Bowl, but
Or Madden. So, all right, yeah,
So,
no, that,
no, so
yeah, yeah.
Tom, you triggered kind of my memory in something. When I was at like my peak interest in playing Smite, I remember, we usually play in the evenings, obviously, when all our responsibilities for the day were over. And I remember I would wake up in the morning and just look at the history of our matches, and one by one, looking at all the of our opponents' like gamer names or whatever, and typing them into Twitch to see if they were streaming the match that we played them against.
Yeah.
And like, I think maybe we found like once,
Yeah, they were
and
like
it's like
a higher level person, right? Or no?
that was I don't know, because I remember because I would also do this. This is even more silly. I would also do this when Tom played with his friends, and I didn't even participate. So I definitely found. I think maybe we found twice. Obviously, I shared it with you guys. I don't remember like
Yeah.
a couple of times. And it was just the greatest thing ever hearing their commentary on
Mm,
your match. I
yeah,
remember one
yeah.
in particular was like calling you guys like garbage or whatever the whole
But
time.
that one I shared with you. I remember,
Yeah.
yeah, I was playing with two of my friends. Uh, yeah, I
Were they
remember
calling you garbage because
I
you
was
were
playing
winning?
exactly, yeah.
Yeah. And
I was playing
get
Osiris that match, and yeah,
oh,
yeah,
sorry. Yeah.
Osiris, yeah, with the
Yeah.
Leonardo skin.
And then like it kind of reached like a breaking point, and the guy who was streaming was like, "Oh, they're garbage. Let's get out of here." And he initiated a surrender.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, that's
lots of
great.
salt in that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so good.
And okay, so I was going to talk about the conclusion right now, but we almost forgot to do the most important thing and give a sort of an account of our hours played on this most hours played game.
Man, I don't know if Tom has an accurate count, but I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah. So I'll give mine first. And again, this is only on Smite 1 on the PlayStation. So this does not count the Nintendo Switch hours that we played, which pales in comparison to the PlayStation. But my PlayStation, according to the PlayStation app, and that's what I'm going on, is 1,369 hours.
Very
Pete,
good.
I feel you should go next because
Yeah,
Tom's is going to blow
I
ours out
this is
of
the
the
grand
water.
finale. Yeah. So I'm using that third-party app I mentioned earlier, which I named. Um, the number seems pretty accurate, especially based on what Anthony just said. So it's 876 hours played. So I would have expected it to be somewhat lower than it.
Yeah.
And drum roll, please.
Wait, I didn't know that it was on that.
Yeah, in the main like overview.
Oh, see, it might be low because that says 949 hours for me. It's like 400 less
Oh,
than what my
okay.
PlayStation app says. Though maybe that is actually more accurate because the PlayStation app it might have just been on,
Yeah, I
on
question how accurate this
the
app
PlayStation
is.
app
Like,
on it or
no,
this
this
app.
third-party app.
Yeah,
I feel like sometimes it was a little buggy, so maybe like
yeah.
some portion of matches or time got lost, but
Yeah.
nevertheless,
Needless to say, I would say I'm over 1,000
yeah, I agree.
if you
Easy,
include Switch and all of that. All right, Tom.
easy.
Yeah, so on my PlayStation app for Smite 1, for just on my main, this is something I forgot to mention too. I even had a second account on PlayStation that I'm not putting the hours towards. So, so for just my main account on Smite 1 on PlayStation was 3,254 hours.
Wow!
Yeah.
Yeah!
Oh man,
Yeah.
Tom could have learned 4 languages or play Smite.
Well, I had a lot of fun playing Smite, so I'm okay. I'm okay with the decision. And then, like I said, it must be another few hundred
500?
200,
hours,
yeah.
Yeah,
few
300
hundred
hours. Yeah.
hours. So you can maybe call it like
3,500.
I'd say 3,500 plus.
All right, you win
Oh,
that. All right, this is a fun episode, guys. It's a good game. We're gonna give our recommendations and final thoughts. I have a feeling people probably know what we're gonna say, but before we do that, I just want to say, we did mention it early in the intro, but we are starting with this episode or with this category a new bro down format in which one of us each will take one of the three games that we discuss leading up to the bro down and sort of defend it as if we were that game's lawyers in a court of law. So it might not be our favorite, but in that particular episode. So check out these individualized game episodes for all of our true feelings of that, and then we're gonna kind of play this game on the bro down episodes just so that it's maybe we hope you liked our other bro down episodes, but maybe even a little bit more interesting and fun and dynamic going forward. So just wanted to throw that out there. And Pete, why don't you give us your final thoughts and recommendations on Smite?
Yeah. So, I mean, as you said, this is the most hours played category. So I think we're generally going to have positive things to say about these games. And I feel like throughout this episode, I've said mostly positive things and a few, less positive things about sort of the learning curve and continually having to be, aware of all the updates. So, in terms of a recommendation, and again, it's a really fantastic game, but for some, it's not for everybody. You really have to invest time. The first time you put it on, and probably the first handful of times you put it on, it's not going to be all that fun. You're just going to try and be getting your feet wet and learning. But if you're really looking for a complex game to be serious about, then I would definitely 100% download Smite 2 and give it a shot.
Yeah, I all of that sounds good and accurate, and I guess it does make sense that we will mostly think positive things or say positive things about these games in this category because we play them so much, and we're not that crazy. We would play 1,000 hours of a game that we don't like, but I kind of echo Pete. I mean, it's I would just give a more emphatic try this out because you might fall in love with it even if it's not your type of genre, or your type of game, generally speaking. But it's just so cool if you like mythology and all of that. Give it a shot. And there are various different modes. So if you don't want to become too invested, you could still probably have a lot of fun in Arena. So 100% recommended as well. Tom, why don't you finish it up?
Yeah, so I mean, this game definitely, you know, holds a special place for me. I it's just, yeah, I mean, you just heard by the numbers. I've put so much effort into this game, and then even when not playing, I would be looking at builds
Studying.
online, yeah, studying and keeping up to date with the items, and even just doing stuff like you mentioned with, checking if this, I played against a streamer in the
Yeah, yeah.
previous night, and just like I remember I had like a spreadsheet where I was tracking my own stats and stuff from the previous night, just to like, be able to sort things better that you can't do like on the apps and stuff. This game. One thing we didn't mention in the episode, the game over the course of the years had some, kind of like bugs, and it wasn't always I guess like the smoothest experience, due to those technical bugs. But I mean, most of the time it wasn't something that would completely break the game.
Yeah, a lot of times though, when there was excitement around the game, new god or something, I don't know, then sometimes the servers would not be able to hold up and they would crash. So we would all kind of get on, ready to play, and it
Yeah.
can be hard.
Yeah, yeah.
But besides
They
that,
they went through some issues with server issues over the years, but I mean, yeah, that stuff aside, we have Smite 2 now. I would definitely recommend downloading and playing that. Give it a shot. I mean, I wasn't into MOBAs when I downloaded Smite, and it turned into one of my favorite games of all time. So, it could be the same thing for you. Yeah, and just for full clarity, I wouldn't recommend downloading Smite 1 at this point. The game is basically, I mean, it's still around, you could still play it, but it's getting minimal support and minimal updates at this point, and most likely will become unsupported, I would say, this year. So, just take the plunge into Smite 2. There's less gods that you would have to learn about. It's on a shiny new Unreal Engine 5. It's going to be the future for the game, for Smite, and hopefully, we can last another 11 years or
Mhm.
11 years plus. But yeah, give it a shot.
all right, let's go play some Smite.
Yeah. All right. There you have it. Thanks everyone for listening. This has been our discussion of Smite by Hi-Rez Studios. Check out our Instagram and X accounts at Bros Boss Battles. That's BROS Boss Battles. Also, find us on Twitch, and perhaps you'll find us playing Smite one day. We also have a YouTube page. You can check us out there. Our website is brothersandbossbattles.com, and drop us a line or interact with us wherever you get this podcast. All right, till next time. Good night, everyone.